Thanks for listening to the Swearing In podcast, where you'll hear the origin stories of those who chose to serve. So ground your gear, take a seat, and listen up. The Swearing In podcast starts right now.
Rock, rock, all night long we're gonna roll, roll, to the break of dawn we're gonna swing it, swing it, we wanna go home, we're gonna shake it, in the twilight zone we're gonna rock, rock, roll, roll, get, stay, ready, 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 ready.
Hello and welcome to everyone listening, and I'd like to especially welcome all of my brothers and sisters in service. This is the Swearing In Podcast, and I am your host, Marty Smith. Today, my guest is Army retired Lieutenant Colonel Rob Smith. Rob grew up in Philadelphia and graduated from Overbook High School in 1983. He joined the Army right after graduation and swore in at the Philly MEPS at just 17 years old. He went to Basic and AIT at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, as a 71 Lima administrative specialist. His first assignment was to Engineer School Brigade in Fort Belvoir, Virginia. That was followed by an assignment to Korea and then back to Arlington Hall Station, Virginia. It was there that he was accepted into the Green to Gold program and attended Shippensberg University in Pennsylvania. Upon graduation, he was commissioned a second lieutenant in armor. He attended Officer Basic course at Fort Knox, Kentucky. Then he was assigned to the 4th Infantry Division at Fort Carson, Colorado. After 4 years in armor, he was branch detailed to military intelligence. He went to Officer Advanced course at Fort Huachuca, Arizona, where he was promoted to captain. He later served as a basic training company commander, transferred to Acquisitions Branch, deployed to Afghanistan in 2016, and retired as a lieutenant colonel in 2017. Now this concludes your pre-brief, so let's get on with the interview. Well, joining me today is Army retired Lieutenant Colonel Rob Smith. Rob, thanks for coming on, telling your story. I appreciate that.
Anytime. Thanks for inviting me.
I've been inviting you for many months.
You certainly have.
So you told me the story about being born in Philly. That's fascinating.
Yes. Born and raised in a house.
And you grew up and you went to high school in Philly.
Overbook High School, yes, in Philadelphia.
You're a sports hero?
Yeah.
What'd you do?
No. Well, I was tall enough to play basketball, but I didn't have the strength.
Yeah, sure.
So I was amazing on the bowling team.
Nice.
I did. I was on a bowling team and I ran cross country.
Oh, you did?
I did. I ran cross country. Yeah. And I wasn't that good, but it was fun. It was fun to experience high school life.
Absolutely.
And it was 5 of us kids.
Yeah, so you're tight.
Yeah. So my mom was like, "Get out of my house." You know, this is back in the 80s. Get out of the house and go do something.
That's right.
All right, Mom, I'm joining the bowling.
Doesn't matter. Just get outside.
Exactly. And make sure you come in the house when the street lights come on.
That's right.
Exactly. So
she'd run out in the neighborhood and yell your name.
That's it. You only got to yell one time, and I'm home.
Because if you miss that, you're in trouble.
Exactly.
You have any plans for what you're going to do after high school?
At that time, I didn't.
College wasn't on the horizon?
College was on the horizon, but because I was, it was 5 of us, my mom and my dad, of course, 4 siblings. From an affordability standpoint, I knew my family couldn't afford to put me to college. Although a lot of my test scores, SAT scores, were off the chart.
Yeah.
And going to Overbook, unfortunately, if you're not maybe number 1 or 2 or the top 10% or whatever, they really don't give you much counseling with school.
Yeah, no schools really did.
And I graduated with 750 12th graders.
Yeah.
So I mentioned to my mom, I was like, "Hey, to defray the cost, how about I just join the Army?"
Well, how did that idea come up?
I just happened to see a recruiter.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Did they come to the school?
They came to the school, and normally for seniors, they'll have a recruiter from each service will come by. And I think the Army guy just happened to get me on a good day, and I just signed up. So
Really?
yeah, I talked to my mom about it.
Did you sign up before your senior year was done?
Probably yes, because I went to the delayed entry program in February.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so you did sign up.
Yep, and I was.
So you must have signed up at 17, or were you 18?
I signed up at 17. I graduated high school at 17.
Yeah.
And I signed up at 17, and my mom had physically signed me into the military.
Wow.
Yeah, she had to sign me in, and the worst part, if you want to call it that, was my biological father wasn't in the picture, so it was my stepfather.
Okay.
But he never really, my biological father never really signed papers or anything like that. So we had to track him down to get permission.
Oh, yeah, because you need both biological.
Right, because I'm 17.
Yeah.
So that was one of the harder things about that. And then when I went to the MEPS station, I had flat feet. So they wouldn't
That's
accept.
what they said?
Yeah, I had flat feet. So they wouldn't accept me.
And you were a cross-country runner, and you had to, they said
Yeah,
you had
they had flat feet. And so
Whoa.
they had me go back, and the recruiter said, get a Coke bottle and roll your foot over a Coke bottle for like the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Huh.
I don't know. That's
So you essentially failed the MEPS physical.
I failed the MEPS physical.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I had flat feet.
Were you kind of bummed? Were you kind of downcrest at that time?
Not really.
Oh.
Because this was a new experience. I've never been out of Philly. I only listened to teachers and mom and whatnot. So this was just a totally different experience.
But you still pursued it. It wasn't like I guess that wasn't in the cards.
I still pursued it strictly because I didn't want to burden my parents with the financial.
You're trying to do something for them. Yeah,
I didn't want to, and that was the thing. If moms would have said, "Oh, don't worry about it, we'll get some money some kind of way," I probably would have just said, "Thanks, military, but I'm going to go the college route." That's kind of what happened.
Wow. So are you really just rolling that Coke bottle under your feet?
I did. I rolled that shit for like 2 weeks.
Did it hurt?
It didn't hurt, and I don't know what it was doing.
Yeah.
But the recruiter, who probably had more than enough privates or soldiers actually getting to the military, this was like one thing that he said do. And all they had to have was...
nuts. I never heard of that.
All they had to have was a little arch. Because my feet...
Enough to not touch the ground.
Exactly. Just one little arch. And I don't know if they do that now. I mean, I don't know. This was 82.
So this is 1982.
Yeah.
Military is on the come. It's not there yet. It's still kind of...
Exactly.
It's not the greatest
exactly.
Right?
Yes.
It's still first blood where the sheriff's driving you out of town because you're some hippie, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's, And that's what when I went through, but no one in my family had ever joined the military.
I was going to say, no history of military at all.
I was the first, which made it hard for my mom.
Yeah. No expectations. She had no idea.
No expectations. And then plus, when you see your son every day for 17 years and all of a sudden you don't see him and he doesn't have the permissions to call and stuff like that, I think it was a little daunting to her. Then plus,
sure, absolutely.
Me and my brother went into the military the exact same day.
So did you talk that out? Was this your older brother?
Stacy is...
Had to be older brother, right? You were 17 when you were talking.
He was 18.
Okay.
As I like to say, my mom didn't even let the stitches heal. That's how close we are. That's
my older brother and sister.
That's how close we are. And so he went to Northeast High School, which was more of a... it wasn't an urban school or anything like that. It was on the other side. It was on the other side of railroad tracks.
Okay.
So those guys more than likely get the Marine or Air Force recruiter. When you're in the hood, sort of, you get a lot more Army recruiter.
So you didn't talk with him, did you?
No.
It was just kind of a freak thing?
It was just a freak thing. I was like, I joined the Army. He's like, I joined the Marines. And then and then that day, which was July 8th, when we both went to the MEPS station. 83. We both left the exact same day. 2 cars came up to the house. One picked him up and one picked me up right about the same time.
So, but this is after you've passed the physical now.
Right. I've passed the physical. I've passed everything. I've passed my my ASVAB with.
Did you have? Did he offer you a guaranteed job? Did you sign a contract for a job?
I did. Again,
how did you settle on? You were 71.
I was 71 Lima. The recruiter said,
which is, for those who don't know, which is
administrative specialist.
Okay, so how did you settle on that?
The way I let's change the dynamics. I didn't settle on it.
That's what he pitched.
What the recruiter told me was, hey, no one called me Rob back then, but hey, Robert. It's like, yeah. He's like, you like computers? I was like, oh, mind you, this is 82.
Yeah, it's on the rise.
On the horizon. Right? I was like, oh my gosh, love computers. Best thing is, like, I tell you what.
Yeah.
71 Lima, you're going to be on a computer all day long and twice on Sunday. Sign me up for that. And that's how I became a 71 Lima.
Was there a bonus?
No, I'm sure.
Did he even offer you anything with a bonus?
No, but I'm sure since they know that I knew my homeroom keys, which is ASD.
Oh, yeah, ASDF.
JKL semicolon.
So you could kind of type.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. I could type and everything else. So
71 Lima.
71 Lima.
And what'd you say, July?
July 8th, 1983. 1983.
Is that when you swore in?
Yes, because you go to the MEPS station on the day that you're leaving, so I guess that's the day that you swore in the
civilian clothes and all?
I swore in with civilian clothes. Then they said, sit in the chair. They shaved all that shit. And that was the last time. Again, we didn't have phones then either.
No.
So that was when Stacy was my brother. When Stacy and I basically got in the vehicle, I think I may have seen him at the MEP station like once.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, all right, man.
They keep you overnight there?
No.
Because you're right in Philly. So
you're right in Philly, and you're going to Fort Jackson, South Carolina.
So they put you on a bus?
They put us on a bus.
To bust you down to South Carolina?
I believe they bused us to South Carolina. I don't think that, because it was so close. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how. Yeah, I think I was on a bus.
What did you think of all those other guys on the bus?
I think the difference was
coming. You seem like an outgoing guy. So did you reach out to those guys?
No. Coming out of Philly.
Yeah. You got to be guarded, right?
Right. You're guarded because you don't trust anyone.
Yeah.
I've never been outside of Philly except in the streets and whatnot.
What were you thinking? Were you excited at
No.
that? Were you terrified of that?
I cried like a little bitch. I did. Because it was new to me.
When did it hit you? It was like, oh, maybe I made a mistake.
I think when I got to basic training.
Yeah.
When I got to basic training and seeing
when you unasked the bus and they're in your face.
Screaming, I'm like, excuse me, moms don't even scream at me. But I think that's just
I'm your mom now for recruit.
It's brand new.
Yeah.
And so my first,
and especially you had nobody to like prep you.
Nobody, yeah.
To tell you, hey, it's just a game, just take it.
And my stepdad, he was a hard worker, and my mom was hard workers, but again, they never kind of, that discipline was instilled in me, but not like Army discipline.
And
not like right. I never had a whole bunch of dudes around me, talking and.
Well, but that's also a testament to your mom and dad that they weren't iron fisting you as you were.
I've got my beatings up growing up.
Well, sure, but they weren't like.
But right.
Hey, why is that carpet a little crooked there?
Right.
That kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, without a doubt. So no, I wasn't. It didn't really hit me that this was different until I got to Drill Sergeant Brown and Drill Sergeant Clarkson.
Did you get off the bus in the middle of the night?
Probably. Yeah, it was late because it was a long trip.
Right.
So probably probably 1 or 2 in the morning.
So you're stiff. They're yelling as you get off the bus. Get your gear. Right.
Yeah.
And then they insulting you.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Toes on the yellow line.
Yep. And a tear came down because Drill Sergeant's like, "You crying?"
Oh no.
Yeah. He caught me. Drill Sergeant Brown. He caught me. And it was just brand new.
Absolutely.
Brand new. So
it's stress. Yeah, of course.
It was different, and they called me Buckwheat.
Oh no.
Yeah, I was pissed. That was what they called me in basic training because I had on the black glasses.
Sure.
And I was a wiry kid. I was tall and skinny. And so,
you didn't have the fro out.
I didn't have any. No, so that's what they called me, man. So I was like,
no. God.
But after a while, it became pretty cool.
Well, you get used to it.
You get used to it physically and everything else. I could run like a deer.
Yeah, that helped.
But I couldn't do push-ups.
Well,
and I couldn't do sit-ups.
Oh, you'll get over push-ups,
I got a lot of those. So
right.
it was fun.
But as long as you could run, that helps.
Yeah.
That helps a lot.
And that's what...
A lot of those guys really reach their point of no return when they can't run.
And that's what kind of pushed me towards being recognized from a leadership perspective from the drill sergeant, strictly because I was able to run and a lot of guys couldn't. So,
how'd you do in basic?
I did well in basic. I didn't have any issues. Did pretty good shooting.
You ever shot before?
Oh, I've shot, but I've never. No,
I mean, rifle.
Yeah,
Let's
there
say
you go.
that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I've never shot a rifle, so.
Okay. But it's not unfamiliar to you.
No, what shooting wasn't familiar to me. The dynamics of, hollering and things like that wasn't new because I've seen it before, but just not this close up.
Sure.
But I think the biggest thing that I learned is just the discipline. I found that I liked that.
Oh,
I liked someone kind of saying, this is the way, the order, this is the way we do things.
Yeah.
This is a discipline because I was always an organized kid. So when I had a drill sergeant say, this is how you march or this is how you do this, I took a liking to that because it was a little easier.
Wake up at this time.
Yeah.
Make your bed. Square away your foot.
I had one instance where I was 4:15. I was on the top bunk. Drill Sergeant Clarkson, short white guy from the country, nice guy, came and woke everyone up, but I was on the top bunk, and it's like my first week. Yeah. And I wasn't getting out of bed, and he came over and shook the bed, and I guess I had just woke up, and I acted like I was going to swing on him.
Oh, no.
And he pushed me off. But again, this is 82.
Yeah, sure. There you get
so he
touchy.
pushed the whole top bunk on the floor.
Damn.
Which we were on it. And I was like, oh, that's right. I'm not at home. I'm in basic training, so I need to be up. But no, that was like the only incident that I really...
you do that all cavalierly now.
Oh, yeah.
But what was that like at 83 when he's pushing you like, this son of a bitch is pushing me over?
You know what? After a while, you had to take it because then you realize you're under their control.
Yeah.
I mean,
you can push back, but what's that going to get you?
And that's what I did. I initiated because I wanted to take a swing at someone because
you were waking up.
I was waking up, and I remember in summer camp when guys would push each other off the bunks and stuff like that, and we'd end up fighting. But this was summer camp when I was younger. But now that I'm in the military and someone else, I probably reverted back to that. So yeah, I've learned my lesson many days. It was fun.
And this was at Fort Jackson.
Fort Jackson, South Carolina. Delta 161, I think is what it was.
And so you're there kind of in the fall, right? Late summer, fall?
Yes.
Any difference climate-wise? You've never been out of Philly, right?
I've never been out of Philly.
Philly was humid. South Carolina
was humid. I was like, oh my gosh, it was hot. I was losing weight. I was sweating. I was like, oh, I need some powder for my twigs and berries. I swear.
You take a shower, you dry off, and you're still wet.
Yeah, and that's what took a lot to learn because I've never been in that environment. Yeah. So, but gradually, once I started to get climatized or whatever, it was pretty easy.
Did you ever have anybody push up on you in basic? Because there's always that, right? There's always incidents of that, right?
I had one incident. They try you.
Yeah, of course.
They try you.
It's a locker room.
Right.
It's a locker room.
They tried me once. They didn't try me twice. That's kind of how
Very
I look
good.
at it. Yeah,
like
they try me once and try. Because again, you got a whole bunch of person. It's just like jail.
Well, you got height on your side too. So.
And that's why people kind of
It's always the short guys.
It is. It's always. That's why I got pushed up on me. Because
us short guys, I should say it that way.
Because I was tall, they thought they did. But again, I wasn't the type of person that's just going to be, I'm going to be disruptive. I was just that dude that just...
You're not going to be a bully, but you're not going to get bullied.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was fun. It was a learning experience, and I think that's where I honed, in my opinion, my leadership characteristics and style there. Yeah, because...
And you didn't even know it then.
I didn't know it because guys were
But you knew how to relate to people.
Right.
Which is one of the better things of
that's what I found even through my military career. If you talk to people like, hey, we put on our pair of pants the same way. Yeah. We're on a same level. they're more apt to actually listen to you and enjoy you. That's
instead of always rearing back to throw a punch.
Exactly. Yeah, those days are gone. So,
did you get orders towards the end of basic?
Mm-hmm. When I got orders for Engineer School Brigade in Fort Belvoir, Virginia, it was just different because everyone else is either going to Common Arms, overseas. This was just...
They're all over the place, right?
They're all over the place. But the thing about being a 71 Lima or administrative specialist, they can put you anywhere.
And that's true.
And so that was my first...
That's right.
That was my first, I guess, position where I didn't have a whole bunch of individuals. It was just me and a Spec 5 back then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was a Spec 5, and he was my boss. And I worked at the brigade level. Yeah. So I didn't go into formations and things like that. So although I had a discipline from Basic and AIT, I actually was working with like an 06. Yeah. Which was different.
That can be good and bad.
It was good from a leadership perspective because I was like, oh, okay, this is the top dog. I'm watching it.
But it can be bad because you don't have any peers, right? You don't have anybody else.
And you don't have any discipline because you think you can get away for things strictly because you got to know.
You've been working for an 06?
Exactly. And so that discipline kind of wanes a little bit.
Did that catch you?
Well, I had my E5, Spec 5.
Yeah.
Spec 5 Hinton, Michael E. Hinton. And he was really good at reaming me in or pulling me in, saying, you know, hey.
That's good. So he really watched out for you.
Yeah, he watched out for me, haircut, uniforms. And this is when I started to make sure my uniform was tight, shining my boots and stuff like that. Because, again, I loved that discipline part.
See, I saw that, too, from your peer group. Like, if you're going out for the morning, he's like, dude, you look like shit. Your boots look like shit today.
Yeah.
You got to fix that shit, or you're going to make us run. You know, that kind of
and I guess it just depends on the unit that you were in, because
But you didn't have the benefit.
I didn't
of 15 other PFCs.
Right, I didn't. I didn't have the benefit of like Marty and Mike, all his groups saying, "Hey, squad,
dude, shave,
exactly.
Dude, you look like shit."
Yeah. Plus, I was so young, man. I don't know if I had whiskers coming in yet. So.
How was your tech school? It couldn't have been a long school, right?
Yeah, well, it was. You go to basic training, and then right down the street you go to Alpha 11-4. It was right at Fort Jackson. It's just down the street.
I said tech school. I should have said AIT.
Right.
Sometimes I talk to Air Force guys.
Yeah. I'm an Army guy. So
AIT.
And so the advanced individual training was different, strictly because, oh shit, what's up, girl? How you doing?
Oh, you're mixed now.
We're mixed.
That's right.
We're mixed now
because you had all male basic
all
training.
Males. But then when
they're like, hey, you're going to be working with her, and you're like,
right, yeah. But I mean, yeah, because I didn't have. It was all men, dudes.
Yeah, for
and basic.
right?
But then when I went to AIT, and I was like, okay, what's up, girl? How you doing? And it was fun because I learned I learned the skills of a 71 Lima, and then I also went to postal school. So that's Fox.
Oh,
that's Fox 5 as well.
That's a good.
That's a great.
Yeah, that's a good addition to have.
And that's what they needed at that particular time. So it was right down the street. 6 or 7 weeks,
and then just because she's getting old.
I know. 6 or 7 weeks at Alpha 11-4, and then you can kind of go off post.
And you get those permissions. Yeah,
you get those permissions. Number one. Then number two, they actually gave us a chance to go to Georgia. There's like an amusement park. So all of us. Yeah, so all of us went to Georgia in uniform.
Oh, you did?
What's up, girl? How you doing? Yeah, because again, you're finally around females and vice versa. So and I met this one young lady, and to this day I know her, and she's out in New York as a lawyer.
No kidding.
And we knew each other.
You're still in contact.
Still in contact with her as a hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
Real nice person.
Right.
But we were actually in AIT together, so that was fun. But no, it was great. It was actually really good.
So you got your orders. You already know you're going to Belvoir.
Right.
AIT ends when? Do you remember?
Probably March of the following year, like 84.
Oh, okay. So you did Christmas there.
Yeah, right. I did Christmas at Jackson.
Did you go home?
I did. Yeah. I went home because, again, it was different. They allowed you to go home. No, I think I flew.
Oh, okay.
I think I flew, and that's when you got to wear your uniform and everything else.
Right.
And it's funny because back then, no one really said thank you for your service.
No,
they just was like, oh, okay.
They were getting out of where the country kind of looked down on you,
right? Because they thought that most guys and gals who joined the military couldn't make it in college and things like that.
It's go to war or go to jail,
right? Exactly, and
that was a lot of that Vietnam era.
That's the label
military.
that you got, yeah. So I went home, stayed there for a couple of weeks, and then came back, finished AIT, and then got my orders for Fort Belvoir. Because they were so close, I still just flew from South Carolina to Fort Belvoir, and then I kind of went from there.
So you get to that first assignment.
Right. Yeah.
And what's your duties there?
My duty was to work for an 06 who was in charge of the school brigade.
God, an 06? That's crazy.
Yeah, I was working for an 06. My immediate,
I don't think I had contact with an 06 for years.
My immediate supervisor was Specialist Hinton.
That's Spec 5.
Yeah, Spec 5.
Yeah.
And we worked with an E8 by, her name was Sergeant First Class Janie Jefferson. Oh. So Specialist Hinton, or Sergeant, because I think they changed, he worked for her and she worked for the general. I mean, correction, she worked for the colonel for the entire brigade, from an administrative. It was almost like a pack. Yeah. But Sergeant First Class Janie Jefferson was in charge of anything administrative for the entire brigade. And she was great at it. And it's kind of funny because she reminds me of your old auntie who smoked cigarette hanging out her mouth, hair all disheveled. Really? And that's how she was. But she knew her stuff. How long had she been in? Probably 15, she 16, was in for a minute. Yeah, I was like, you take another puff, you just might die. I mean, because that's how old she was. But she knew her shit. She did. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it was actually pretty cool. And one thing about her is she made sure Specialist Hinton or Sergeant Hinton always made sure that I was disciplined. She would always be like, all right, Private Smith. Yet another lesson. It's those senior non-commissioned officers that kind of made sure that the young guy or gal coming in, that they followed the right discipline path.
Now, we know how your career ended up. Yeah. But at that time, were you like pocketing these lessons? Did you see yourself as more than you were as an A1C? As a PFC at that time?
I was, but I was not looking at it from an officer's perspective. Yeah. I was looking at it from yourself, from Specialist Hinton and Sergeant Jefferson. Strictly because I saw how they were from a work perspective, from a discipline perspective.
Great role models.
Right. And that's exactly what it was. I couldn't find any fault. I'm sure there was, but I couldn't find any fault. But what I did like was when Sergeant First Class Jefferson said, all right, team, we're going to do this. She made sure it got done. I don't care how late it was. And
Follow up, man.
Specialist Hinton was the exact same way. Yeah. So that's where I learned not discipline, and you have to make sure that if you say you're going to do something, do it.
So your first enlistment's coming up, right? This is 84 now. You're at Belvoir. Mm-hmm. A couple more years. Your enlistment's coming up. So what are you going to do?
The reason I found myself wanting more of the military or the Army was, first of all, they opened the door for education. For me. Right. That was right.
You got your GI Bill in the bag now, right?
Right, but it was Montgomery GI Bill.
That's right. Exactly. Good point. That's a good point.
So, and I was able to go to school on my own because they instilled the discipline that says, "Hey, Private Smith, PFC,
better yourself.
If you want to be X, you have to do Y." Yeah. And so I've learned. So that's where I got all my education. I was in school every time I turned around, and Sergeant Jefferson was like, hang in there, congratulations.
Once you kind of get in the habit, it's like, hey, I need to be doing something.
Exactly. And that was it. And that was what I learned, is because, I'm from Philly, meaning I'm an inner city kid, so I'm used to riding the buses. I didn't have a car. Yeah. I didn't have a girl. You know, but I knew education was important because I saw it from their perspective.
That's rare. You know,
you
don't usually get that.
And that's the reason why I wanted to stay in, because I wanted to get a degree and so forth.
Oh, yeah. So you had the goal.
My goal was to get a degree, and that was really it. And then everything else kind of went from there.
So it was an easy decision to re-up. Very
much, and no bonus, of course. Yeah,
no
bonus for someone that types on a computer. So, yeah, it was very easy to sign up, and I think that the other thing was, from my parents' perspective, and this was just me.
Yeah,
I was sending 80% of my money to my mom.
Yeah.
You know,
I've heard that story.
Yeah, I've sent 80% of my money to my mom, and it's funny because after a while I was like, "Damn, this is mine. What am I doing?" and I think once
but if you're living on base or on post, right,
I got it.
You know, things are cheap and
I got it, but
still after a point you're like
after, and that's exactly what happened. I was like, you know what, Mom, I do love you, but we're gonna have to cut this. And she got mad. Deservedly so, because you know when you're giving your mom and family so much for like a year and a half, and then all of a sudden, and what it is, I was growing up.
Sure, and she had to know that.
Oh yeah, she
knew.
Still
at the same time,
of course, she didn't go, "No, baby, you keep it." She's not going to send it back. So after a while, you know, I kind of made that transition again. I'm in school.
Yeah.
I'm getting a lot more responsibility, a lot more leadership. And so that's, again, I'm becoming a man. That's probably the best way to put it. So, yeah.
I'd like to go to Anthony's Pizza a couple more times.
Exactly.
I need some money.
Exactly. So it was fun. It was fun. And but that's where I learned everything from Hinton and Jefferson.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
And I still remember them too. So,
where'd you go after Belvoir?
After Fort Belvoir, I went to, I'm a preacher's kid. I went to Korea.
Oh, so it's
and I sinned every day that I was there.
It's time for your overseas.
Yeah. I went from Engineer
Now all constraints are off.
Oh, it's off. Yeah, it's over with.
$5 massages.
It's over. And I think, and I will say this, one of the difference is going back to Engineer School Brigade, I also learned discipline and leadership because I joined the honor guard for the company.
Oh, you did?
I did, because I'm 6'3", 6'4".
You're perfect colors holder right there.
So I did that, and then also I got an Article 15.
And that sharp blue suit.
Yep. And I got an Article 15 for stealing cable. So again.
Oh, wait, what?
So back in the day.
Stealing cable? They gave you an Article 15
They gave me an Article 15.
Summarized or what?
No, it was 14 and 14.
Oh.
And money taken out. So I was in.
So for those who are listening, especially all the non-Army guys, that's 14 days restriction
and 14
days no pay.
No, 14 days of extra duty.
Oh, extra duty.
And 14 days restriction.
Oh, they didn't take pay?
Oh, they took maybe like $150.
Okay.
Yeah. And here's why. So back in the day when you're staying in the barracks.
They didn't do a summarize for you?
No. And so when you're back in the day when you're in the barracks, you don't get the type of reception that you get now.
Get nothing.
You get nothing. Yeah. So I had a little TV and I had a cable wire. So I plugged the little cable wire, coax I guess, into my TV, and then I plugged it into the wall.
Yeah.
But I wasn't going through a cable company. So I was getting great channels.
Well, who was providing that cable?
But whoever it was, they knew that they shouldn't. So what happened was the company commander, he would go around and he would inspect his barracks.
Okay, yeah, sure.
And he would go through them with the first sergeant, and if they saw that wire was attached to the wall and to your TV without a cable box, they're saying that you're stealing cable. So anybody that...
So how many guys got busted for that?
Like 14.
Yeah, there you go.
So what happened was when I came in from work and there was a note that says, we had a formation, and the formation basically said, if there is a wire on top of your TV or on your bed, report to the company commander. So Captain Pittman gave me an Article 15. And again, that was my first time getting in trouble from a military perspective.
Yeah, sure.
So now I'm learning that there are things that you can do and things that you can't do. So again, this has always broadened my horizon, my leadership. And then after that, did that, then I went to Korea. And I went to...
Well, wait a minute. You got to be clinched up when he's calling you the office.
I did.
Right? You're because like, my God.
Because I'm taking pride. Like,
you still PFC at that time?
Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh. I'm thinking I'm doing everything right. You know?
Yeah.
And when he said, the reason you're getting Article 15 is because you're stealing cable, and here's why. And he explained it to me, although I disagreed with it. I understood the dynamics. Yeah. He's a company commander, and then I think at that moment I was like, that's power. You know, and
sure.
So that's a little bit of when I thought about becoming an officer, but not much.
Yeah.
You know, but I just kind of went around and be like, man, this one guy.
Well, and you know, I don't see that in the Air Force. I don't know how it is in the Marines or the Navy.
Yeah.
But I've seen it many times in the Army.
Oh yeah.
Where they take pay from you.
Yep.
They can bust you.
Yep.
And they can restrict you. It's like, holy.
Yeah.
When you take pay from somebody.
Especially 100 at a PSC.
Yeah, that gets your attention real quick.
Yeah, I know. Right? I know. So, yeah, it was, but again, I learned my lesson, and that helped.
Well, and I'm sure it wasn't a malicious thing. Because there were so many.
Yeah, it wasn't malicious, but I was like, really?
But still, you're on the bad side.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But, you know, and I explained it to my boss, and they laughed, of course, and they understood it. But then, again, they made
But it is in your record.
No.
Oh, they purged it?
Yeah, they don't.
Or is it a temporary file or whatever?
There's a company. You have a company Article 15.
Yeah, company
and
grade,
a field grade.
Field grade.
The company Article 15 stayed in my records until I departed the company.
Okay.
Once I departed,
and then they round file it.
Yeah, they round filed it. So that was about it. But again, Janie Jefferson, especially Michael Hinton, they use that as a teaching point. Say, okay, this is why you shouldn't do X. You know, hey, you're still a good leader and so forth and so on. You just have to be mindful from a discipline perspective. So
when you step off the plane in Korea,
did
you get that whole kimchi smell?
I did, and I was like, "What is that?"
Where were you at? You were at
camp. So I went to Korea, and my position was 66 AG detachment, postal.
Okay.
I work at Kimpo Airport, and
really?
I was the one.
Wow.
I was the one that delivered mail throughout the entire peninsula. That was my job. Yeah, that was my job when I went to Korea. And by then, I was an E4.
Okay, so you made specialists.
I made specialists, but
the entire peninsula.
Yes,
that's crazy.
So it's just like FedEx as an example.
Yeah,
packages will. Well, this is the example. Packages will come in from the U.S. Yeah. It goes to Kimpo Airport, and at night, me and let's say 12 other individuals, we would have a long conveyor belt, and then you would have trucks backed up into these conveyor belts.
Process, right?
We would sort it, and
then the log packs would take it out to wherever they're going.
No, it wasn't the log packs. It was a Korean driver known as a Katusa.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, it was known as a Katusa. Yeah, no, correction, not a Katusa. Adashi, that's what we call it. Adashi.
Yeah.
It would be a Korean driver, and then it would be one individual, like myself or one of my soldiers. And the reason we did that is because this is government mail. We are going to all the installations. We go up to Wagon, we go up to Jeju-do, Tongdashan. So we would go all the way up and then go all the way down, Busan. And we did that every day.
Yeah.
And by then, I made corporal because I showed leadership.
Oh, they put you to corporal?
Yeah, they made me corporal. So they made me...
Because they wanted you to have leadership stuff.
Exactly.
They didn't want you to have more pay.
Yeah.
They just wanted you to have
exactly. Yeah, I learned that. I learned that quick.
But now you're an NCO.
Right? Yeah, I'm an NCO, and they... You know what? And my team recognized me as such.
Nice.
So which was actually pretty cool. But yeah, I was there for a little over a year.
Did they send you to BNOC over there?
No, because don't forget I was a corporal.
That's where I don't know if they send you to BNOC before E5 or
yes, they do. They send you to PLDC, primary leadership.
Oh, PLDC.
Yeah, okay. PLDC is kind of what they do, and then after you make E5,
then
they'll send you to BNOC, E6, and then send you to something else.
Okay.
So yeah, I did the Kimpo Airport for a year.
How'd you do it? You're glossing over all that stuff, but.
Because I was a Fox 5. Remember I went to...
No, still. But you're there... At this point, you're what? 20? 19?
I might be 22.
Oh, at that point?
Yeah, because it's like... Oh, no, you know what?
Not having been 17, anywhere, right?
I might have been 19. You're right, 19.
Not having been anywhere. Now you're in a foreign country for a year.
Yeah.
And with people who don't even speak the language.
Right.
Right.
And trust me, I bought a lot of drinks.
Because I let you drink at 18, right?
Yeah, they let me drink at 18, and I was trying to get with anybody last name Kim over there. I mean, because I was a preacher's kid.
All those juicy girls.
That's it. Buy me drinky. Sure, I will buy you whatever you want.
Hey, I'll buy you a watered down drink. How much? $25? What are you talking about?
You know what? And I was paying it too. Because
if you buy bottle, Rob, you buy bottle, we go in the back.
Because again, although I grew up in Philly, both my parents were ministers.
Yeah.
So that time with women, we'll just say that for now, with women and just kind of being outside of the protectiveness of your church family and your mom.
Sure.
I did all of that when I was in Korea.
You remember coming to America?
Oh, yeah.
Remember when James Earl Jones says, gotta sow your royal oats, right?
Exactly. So I did all of that.
But every kid does that at some point, right? Because now you're on your own, and it's almost too much to handle.
And I couldn't just pick up the phone and call mom because it was long distance. Yeah. So
remember those? Remember how valuable? Like if you could get a calling card, like a $25 calling card. Oh my God, that's
but then
money.
This is when I started to learn the Autobahn. Because you can
Autobahn network.
Because you can go into a certain room and you can
get for free.
An Autobahn operator and then make a morale call. So you got
to get there to the in-area operator, and then she'd make the call.
Yeah, exactly. So, brilliant. But no, so I was at Kimpo Airport at Camp Market for like a year, a little over a year.
Did you ever go up DMZ or anything?
I did.
Yeah?
I did. I went up to the ZMZ to deliver mail. Because again, we delivered mail every day.
Yeah.
We worked at night, and 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, my guys would send the trucks out, go deliver mail, pick up mail, and bring it back.
So did you have the kid shining your boots? What do they call those guys? Those little kids that come in, do your room, shine your boots, start your uniform.
We actually had that on Camp Market, which was where I stayed.
Yeah, those guys are like $10 a week or whatever. And they do all this stuff.
Yep. They came in, and so we had a pretty good working relationship with those individuals that actually came in. But for the most part, because I worked at night.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, because we worked whenever flights came in, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest time that we had in Korea was, come on now, what's the exercise that they have every year?
Focus Line?
Team Spirit. Is it
Team Spirit?
Team Spirit. So we had mail
Yeah.
in a warehouse piled as high as possible because so much mail was coming in.
Yeah.
And I will say this, I feel bad about it now. When packages were coming down the conveyor belt, what we would do is we would take a look at it. We would look at the zip code and make sure it goes into the right truck.
All right.
If we saw a package that said glass, right here, that said glass, because sometimes you had to put your what was in the package.
Yeah.
And I'm just using glass as an example, but they did not put fragile on it or pay the extra money. We threw it. we threw it and said, doesn't say fragile. So we would throw it in a truck. And a couple of times we got in trouble. Again, we're young. And we got
I get it. I probably would have done something too.
And so, but after a while, but seriously, I think that was my true first taste of true leadership because I was in charge.
Oh, okay.
I was the one that was writing the manifest.
Yeah, you're a
I was the guy that was sending out.
You start realizing that if you do jack around,
right, and
that's coming back on you.
Exactly. And so that's why I was like, "Hey guys, hey."
Come on, you just did this last week. I know.
And then that's when I point to the old corporal stripes. Come on. But that's when I got my true taste of leadership from a perspective of, again, I'm never going to be a bully, but of just making sure things are done
right
in decency and order.
But that's not always the easiest thing to do.
It's not.
Right?
It isn't.
Because you got to do it and tell them.
Right.
without turning them against you. You know, that's tough.
And what I did learn was, an NCO had told me as I was kind of growing up, his position, he would say, Rob, what is leadership? And then finally, the answer that we came up with, leadership is the art of influencing others to get them to do what you need them to do.
Yeah.
That's it. It's that simple.
Telling them to go to hell and having them ask you,
how do I get
direction?
There? Exactly. So that was my true taste of leadership at 66.
So are you sold on a career at this point? Do you think?
No, because I still love school. And no one, the problem that I seen or saw with some military folks is if I had a Marty, meaning a mentor, who's like, Rob, sit down. My point is, hey, Rob, sit down. Let's talk about your future. Right. I never had that.
No.
So all I had was people that I saw as E6s, E7s, E8s that I was like, oh, I like the way they're doing things.
Right. Yeah. I'd like to follow. I'd like to be like
But
that.
I never had anyone say.
I didn't either.
Yeah. And that made my decisions harder.
Yeah.
But
absolutely,
it also made my decisions easier when it came to staying in another year because I'm from the city. I'm an inner city, and I didn't.
What are you going back to?
What am I going back to?
Yeah.
So that was always the leading reason why I signed up.
Yeah, that's fair.
That was the only reason. That was the only reason why I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead and sign another couple of years. Yeah. And that's kind of how.
So you got back from Korea '85?
Probably 85, little part of 86.
Now what? Where are you at?
Now I'm at, again, I'm still at 71 Lima.
Yeah.
So now I'm at Arlington Hall Station, which is in Virginia.
Okay.
Right now, Arlington Hall
Station.
Exactly. Arlington Hall Station.
Is that like a remote or something?
It is very much remote.
Okay.
And Arlington Hall Station was the home of intelligence.
Oh.
And so that's what happened is I was still a corporal.
Yeah.
I think I may have made my E5, but I actually went to work. And again, it's been a blessing. I actually went to work at Arlington Hall Station, which was the home of the intelligence. Descent is what they called it. And so I did that. And that's where I started to work truly directly for a 2-star general, 1-star general. Wow. General Runyon, General Soyster, General Hyman. These are generals that I interacted with on a more consistent basis. Wow. And my immediate boss was Sergeant First Class Llewellyn, platoon sergeant. But again, I'm still not going to formations because
there's no unit there.
Right, there's no unit there. And Sergeant First Class Llewellyn's boss was Captain Michelle Parker. And she was the descent to General Runyon, or she was the aide to General Runyon, General Soyster. My other boss was Colonel Hollingsworth. So now this is where I'm starting to see the true essence of officers and things like that. So that's kind of where it was. I'm 85, and they were saying, and I just kind of talked to Captain Parker, sister, right? And she was marrying a doctor and everything, and I was like, oh, okay. And so, but we were able to have not a subordinate supervisor conversation. To be honest, we were able to have a black woman to black man conversation.
That's rare.
It's very rare because
hard to get past rank sometimes.
It was hard to get past rank, but what she did was, and I applaud her. She was saying, it's okay to reach for your stars. It's kind of the discussion she was saying.
Yeah,
it's okay to try something new. It's okay to continue to reach towards success. In other words, she just didn't want me to be stagnant.
To just be satisfied with what you get.
Exactly. So she was the one that kind of said, you ever thought about being an officer? I was like, yeah, I like it. I like what they do.
Yeah.
She's like, just think about it. I see the leadership traits in you, and I think that's something you should think about. And I just kind of put it on the shelf.
Yeah, but still, you got to be walking out of there with your head held high. Right?
And then after a while, because again, I worked for 3 generals, I started to entertain the idea, and I actually looked at it. And here's the thing that was so interesting. Back then, I don't know what year that was, 89 something, 88, 89, no one was doing the Green and Gold Scholarship was out there, but no one was
remember the program.
No one was applying.
Huh.
And I just
interesting.
I took a chance, and I was like, hey, let me try it out. And I got all my paperwork.
Did you have to complete your degree before you applied for it?
No. I actually, because I only had a year and a half.
Okay.
And so I talked to Captain Parker, and then I said, ma'am, this is what I'm going to do. She's like, fine. And I said, do you think I can get a letter of recommendation from General Hyman and General Soyster and Colonel Hollingsworth? And she's like, sure. I was like, get out of here. So, no, she's like, tell me what you want, and I'll get them. And then I talked to Sergeant First Class Llewellyn.
Yeah.
He was my platoon sergeant. To me, I thought it was more important to get a letter of recommendation from him because he's my most senior enlisted person. And I wanted, in my opinion, I wanted him to look at me to say, you'll be a great officer.
Yeah.
And I would be proud or privileged to work under your tutelage. Because officers, they can say that all day long. But when you have an enlisted person kind of say, you know what, I would follow you anywhere. That's what I thought was.
Then again, the board sees a general letter and you're like, oh,
wait,
done.
Wait, did you just steal my joy, man? Did you just say, hey, Rob, although you were fuck up, those generals helped you out. But no, but and you're right. But
internally, because you're trying to do the right thing.
Yes.
To have your boss say, I think you would do it, right?
Right. But I also recognize that those generals would not have written a recommendation if they didn't see me. Because, again, they saw me every day.
Of course.
So that's kind of how I looked at it.
Yeah.
It did help. And once I got that, I think that was like the next step. I've always had high marks, OERs, NCOERs.
Sure.
And it's because of the leadership that I learned from God. Yeah. Never kiss anybody's ass and will never choose to. But except the time I was in Korea.
Not always the easiest time.
Except when I was in Korea. but again, from a leadership perspective, when I did the green to gold and everything else, that's when I really kind of looked at those senior leaders.
Yeah.
Because of A, how high they were, generals, and then B, their decision affected everything.
Yeah.
You know, especially when it was intelligence, it affected every outcome and whatnot. So that's where I really said, let me try something new. But believe it or not, I didn't want to become an officer. And here's why. I love cadence. I love soldiers. I love being with soldiers. Yeah. Even when I was a captain, I would play dominoes and cards with my soldiers on the tank and whatnot.
Like that? Hey,
but
sir,
when I got the green and gold acceptance, I almost turned it down because I wanted to still be an enlisted soldier and be able to lead troops.
There's more camaraderie there.
Call cadence. Yeah. Oh my gosh! I was like, wait, if I'm an officer, I can't call cadence. No. My platoon sergeant was like, no. I was like, and then I was like, you know what? Maybe I won't do it. But again, he was like, don't be an idiot.
You don't want to rip off some hard work cadence
because I wanted to be a drill sergeant. I still wanted I wanted to be that type of NCO.
Yeah.
You know, but no, I was like, you know what? Let me just go with officers.
You don't want to sing a few bars of hard work?
I mean, I loved it. And they were like, don't do it. No, go to become an officer. I was like, okay, cool. So
you get accepted. What year do you remember that happened?
88, because I went to college in 89.
Okay.
A three-year scholarship. Right. The way the green to gold works, this is in 88. The way it works is you'll get accepted.
Yeah.
And you can get accepted not being accepted to any colleges, just as long as you state I've submitted.
Yeah, and then you can go and apply for wherever.
Right. But within that application process, you have to put, I submitted an application to like these 6 schools.
Yeah.
And I'm just waiting for the results. So when I got accepted, I had let the board know I hadn't gotten accepted to any of these schools yet, but they were forthcoming. And then all these schools came in. Like I got accepted to Howard University. I got accepted to Virginia State. I got accepted to Shippensberg. And I was in Virginia. I actually talked to someone in my leadership. I think it was Captain Parker. And I was like, man, I got accepted to Howard. HBCU, black school. Yeah. And she was like, you need to go and talk to the professor of military science and tell them that you're interested. And I was like, cool. So put on my uniform. And I went to the school, found out where the LTC area was. Yeah. Mind you, it's an HBCU. I think I'm 24. I don't know how old I was. I went there, and as I'm walking towards the school, a guy was like, "Yo, you want to hit this?" And I was like,
in uniform.
In uniform. Right, brother, he's like, "You want to hit this?" And I was like, "Nah, man, I'm cool." So I went to the professor of military science, and I kind of walked in.
This was at Howard?
This is at Howard.
Oh.
Everybody was a cadet.
Yeah.
But I was a sergeant. So I kind of walked in. So they really didn't pay me no never mind. And I will tell you this, because of my upbringing, I had never seen so many beautiful women in my life. I shit you not. And that intimidated me.
Oh.
Because I knew that if my ass went to Howard University or any other school, I was going to party my ass off and fail.
Wow.
And I had that discipline.
That's crazy insight to have at that time.
I was 24,
yeah,
25, and I knew. I was like, Howard? Beautiful women all over the place.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have anybody put their arms around me and be like, "Hey, Rob, don't worry about it. I got you."
Right. We'll guide you.
I didn't have that. So I decided to go to Shippensberg University.
Where's that?
Harrisburg University. Harrisburg, like 50 miles.
Pennsylvania?
Yes, it was. I think it was like less than 2% black.
Huh.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, when I walked in, I was like, what the fuck?
I'll be safe here.
I had a harder time there passing those courses because they looked at me like, "Oh shit, you here now. Yeah. You need to buckle down and do it yourself." But mind you, I hadn't been part of that school dynamic because I was in the military.
No, you haven't.
And I hadn't, although it was discipline and everything
else. And you're coming in at what, junior level classes?
I'm coming in as what's the second year?
Sophomore?
Sophomore.
Okay.
Like sophomore.
Yeah.
So I'm coming as a sophomore, and everything was just new to me. So again, that is the only reason why I didn't go to. I am not saying that those schools are party schools. I just knew me at that time.
Right.
With the beautiful women and the location and the environment, and someone asking me that I want to hit this day one in uniform. I just knew I didn't have the discipline.
Yeah, right.
So this is the reason why I went to Shippensburg. I did that for 3 years, graduated, and then became an officer.
Did you go to camp?
I did.
Where was your camp at?
It was going to be at Bragg, but this is the year they changed everything to Seattle, Washington, Fort Lewis.
I went to Fort Lewis. What year did you go to Fort Lewis?
So you go during your junior year. Yeah. So 88, 89.
I went in 88.
I went probably 90.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because they changed. Look
at us. We're even that much.
They changed it, and
so you must have went to one of the early cycles because you were probably a decent student.
Yep.
I was a terrible student, so I went to
the last one. I went to there, and based off of what you get there,
your camp score,
your camp score,
and your GPA,
and I got active duty.
Oh, look at you, an RA commission. I guess
that's exactly what I got. I got an RA commission. Yeah. And then it was like, well, if you get an RA commission, you have to choose combat arms. I was like, my ass is not going combat.
That's bullshit.
Yeah.
But, okay.
And so I signed up for armor. That's
when you put that. What was your top 5? You remember your top 5? Do you remember what it was?
My top 5 was armor.
Yeah.
No, correction. My top 5 started with because I don't think you had to put combat arms. You had to have a combat arms.
No, you just had to have. It could be combat arm, combat support.
My top 5 was MI.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was MI military police because that was my degree, criminal justice. MI military police, armor. I did put field artillery, and then it was something else that I don't know what it was, but it all had to do with like intelligence, computers, and stuff like that. Cool. So no, it was AG. Yeah, because that's what I had done my whole year. Yeah. So that was one of my ones to get, and I got MI, my top one, and then I took armor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I was like, and armor was fun.
Armor was my number 1.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I love tanking. Oh, it was
in fact, best. A friend of mine, we both wanted to go. I think he bought some boots.
Really?
Those boots with the one strap that
tanker boots, yes, sir.
I was like, that's badass, man. Because we thought for sure we were going to go.
Yeah. It was fun. I really enjoyed tanking, as I called it, being there.
Yeah.
And then I enjoyed my platoon sergeant first class Cover. Taught me everything.
It's lucky when you get a guy who's well.
Yeah, and will cuss me out. And of course, I'm like, I'm an officer, right? But he never cussed me out in front of the troops. He would take me to the side and we would discuss it like men, like leaders. And my point was, he showed me the correct way to tank and to lead men. And Sergeant Cover, he's from Altoona, Pennsylvania, and it's funny because there have been more times that I had to go to the general on him because he was just out there. And I'm like, Sergeant Cover, come on, man. But again, I love that guy to this day because he taught me everything that I needed to.
But sometimes it's hard because you only have so many chips with the battalion commander, right? You're like,
so that was fun. I mean, coming back in as an officer was.
Who pinned you on?
My mom.
Nice.
My mom pinned me at.
Nice.
My mom and my stepdad pinned me. They're from Philly, and so my mom knew that I was working at it. And it's funny because my girlfriend at the time, who is now my ex-wife, hey,
join the club.
Exactly.
You can't be on this podcast without an ex, right?
She wanted to pin me, and I was like, nope. That's reserved for my mom. Yeah, I was like, nah, that's reserved for my mom.
Yeah.
So my mom she came up, and it's funny because parents see things in their kids that sometimes we don't see. And my mom has always said, you've always been that type of person who's been kind of like a leader.
Yeah.
And I never saw it because I'm just her son.
But you don't want to be arrogant about it, right?
But she came up from Philly. My whole entire family came up to Shippensberg University. I remember it. During the summer, it was just me and Daniel J. Klein, are the ones that pinned me. It was
who gave you first salute? The unit first sergeant?
Yeah, the master sergeant from ROTC.
Did you give him a silver dollar?
I did. Gave him a silver dollar. And it's kind of funny because, again, being enlisted before, I almost had an up on everyone else because there weren't too many other enlisted folks. The master sergeant who was at the ROTC, even he would teach me certain things because he knew that I was once enlisted.
Yeah.
And it's like...
Sometimes that makes that easier.
It does.
Sometimes those guys are the biggest assholes.
Yeah, they are. Because they know...
They're like, oh, now I get some power, baby.
And they expect more, too. And that's what he did. He expected me physically, mentally, and everything else to be a little better, strictly because I've worn a uniform. I understand certain things. So it was fun. I wouldn't trade it for the world. So
now you commissioned.
Yeah.
Now you're going to do your 4 years as an armor officer.
Right.
Right? Did you go rebuy your blues with the yellow stripe?
I did.
Now you're yellow.
I did.
Right?
That was
so sharp.
My first duty station was Fort Carson.
Oh, you came up there.
Correction. Yeah, it was Fort Carson. Fort Carson.
Fourth ID at that time?
Fourth ID.
Yeah.
And I remember my boss, I was a second lieutenant. I was at Fort Carson doing Pinion Canyon. I was on a tank.
A lot of cool days up in Pinion Canyon.
Yeah. But I love my guys, Sergeant Rosado, Sergeant Culver, Sergeant Smith. This was my team, and they kind of taught me. And then I did that for a number of years. I went to the NTC, Peanut Gallery. My boss, when I became an XO, was Captain Fixler.
Okay.
Real skinny guy. And
with the same unit? The same?
Yes. Well, what happened was I was in one...
You grew up from second lieutenant, first lieutenant in that same unit?
Right. No, I was second lieutenant in one unit.
Yeah.
And then once I became first lieutenant, they moved me to another unit, possibly down the street, because I was the XO.
Okay.
So I was the XO to Captain Fixler, and then again, Pinion Canyon and everything else. And then while I was there, I also did a stint at Fort Polk, Louisiana. JRTC.
I was there before JRTC.
Yeah, see, that's what it is. I was like the first or second for JRTC because JRTC...
You should have seen Fort Polk before they poured all that money into it. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, and so I was there for like the second stint at JRTC. Nice. Came back.
You're a first lieutenant.
I'm a first lieutenant, and then I made captain.
Oh, you made captain there?
Right.
Nice.
At Fort... At the tail end of my stint at Fort Carson.
Okay, so now how does that work? So once you're promoted captain, you're off to OAC, but you're branch detail.
Right. I'm off to Fort Huachuca.
Oh, so that was where your advanced course was?
Yes. Because I did, as a matter of fact, I take that back. When I left Fort Carson, I was a senior first lieutenant who had made the captain's list.
Oh, but then you went off to
and then I went to
got promoted there.
Right. No, I went to Fort Huachuca for the advanced course, is what we called it.
Yeah.
And then I got promoted there.
Okay.
And then once I left there, I went to Germany, Heidelberg, Germany.
Well, wait a minute. You went. So once you went off to your advanced course, you were done with your 4 years of armor.
Right. Done with armor. Right.
No more breaking track.
No more breaking track. I'm sorry. No more watching people break track. Because that's when I was like, oh, yeah, I'm an officer.
Sir, we got this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I will tell you this, which is funny. And change gears, I had a lieutenant brother. And the only reason I'm saying that is because of the way he was acting. So we grew up as first lieutenants.
Okay.
I had Sergeant Culver. He had some other sergeant.
Yeah.
And so here's what he did. We went to the maintenance yard, if you will, where all the tanks were. And his sergeant, disheveled, wrinkled uniform, boots dirty, and he chewed him out up and down. Yes, in front of his troops.
That's bad.
Exactly. And I was like, yo, man.
It's
I was
bad.
like, and I pulled him over. I was like, look, man, his name is Spencer, Lieutenant Spencer. No, this is that. And I said, hey, man, you have to understand, we're officers. They're the ones who work for us, or they're enlisted soldiers or whatnot. I was like, hey, man, this guy is working for you, which is the reason why his uniform. He said, every time I see you, Sergeant, you should look just like me.
Oh, no.
And I was like, bro, you can't do that.
That's bad.
And I'm like, these boys are here for you, and you shouldn't do that. It's like, don't tell me what to. I was like, you know what? My bad, dog. And so then we had an inspection, company battalion.
Oh, so he took your advice?
He didn't take my advice.
Oh, he didn't.
He did not heed it. And so a couple of weeks later, we had an inspection. All of a sudden, BII is missing. Tank parts, is failing. And I was like, bruh, you got to treat these guys with respect.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I understand the difference between officer and enlisted. I said, but you got to let these guys know you appreciate them. And they will never look like you spiffy. I said, because their asses work.
Right.
And he didn't like that, but I was just being honest with him.
But you were trying to be his mentor.
Right. I was trying to say, yo, Spence, don't do that. So I did that, and then I went to Arizona.
Okay, let's do it. Let's do it real quick, unless I gloss over anything.
Yeah.
So now you're in military intelligence.
Yes.
But you only stayed in there for how many years?
I stayed in there probably 3 years.
3 years?
Yeah, 3 years. After that, I went to become a basic training company commander.
So just kind of almost special duty, right?
Yeah, because if you wanted to get promoted to major, you had to have a company command.
Okay. So they counted it. That's good.
And so optimally, I would much rather have had a command in an MI unit.
Yeah, of course. But that's competitive.
Right. Exactly. And my water walking days were over. So I was able to find a basic training company command position, and I did that for 2 years.
So give me 5 minutes on that basic training command.
Basic training company.
Was that the biggest headache of your life?
It was. 225 soldiers every 12 weeks, and maybe...
How many instructors did you have?
6 to 8 drill sergeants.
Oh,
and then I had
one
first sergeant who was Special Forces Ranger tabbed out, and then he left, and I got a first sergeant who just happened to be female. The only reason I'm saying making a difference is she was an administrative first sergeant.
Completely different
approach to everything. She was strong.
Yeah.
But a lot of the dynamics was totally different.
Well, she probably didn't have the experience with the personal situations that get brought up in a basic training camp.
Yes and no. She was on those, I will give it to her, she was on these privates like white on rice. She was tough, but when it came to BRM, when it came to things, physical fitness, she was okay, but just not as strong as BRM.
But she wasn't a follow me guy.
No. Oh no. They knew who was in charge.
Yeah.
So she was, I did that for 2 years. And then after I did that, I was doing the acquisition thing, I think.
How did you transfer then at that point?
From MI to...
Or how did you enter acquisitions?
I received a letter.
But you had already filed to switch branches again?
No.
Or was this part of the deal?
They looked at... No, it was never part of the deal. They looked at your records.
Yeah.
And they was like, hey, we need the top, let's just go 20% of this particular class. We want to move them to something new, which is known as acquisition.
Oh, okay.
And that's how I was favorably selected. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah, right.
And
but it wasn't anything that you actively sought.
No. it wasn't. But I will say that once I got into it and understood the dynamics of acquisition, cradle to grave and equipment and things like that.
The importance of it is crazy.
Right. And then that's when I realized the importance of it, program management, et cetera, et cetera. And that's kind of how my rest of my military career went.
I think importance of it is crazy to all these programs. I mean, it's so influential.
Yes.
Right? However, the lack of satisfaction to get about being around troops drops right off the cliff.
It was because I recognized that when I was in basic training, it was a high.
Yeah.
Because soldiers loved me as a person.
Yeah.
They loved my talking to them. The greatest thing you can have is when you talk to a private, like, "Hey, Private Jones, what's going on? How are you?" Because they're just not used to it. So that was euphoria for me.
Sure.
But then once I got into the acquisition, it's more about seniors, majors, colonels.
Yeah.
You don't have that comradeship. Yeah. You don't have the, "Hey, let's go out," because everyone that you're dealing with are always your senior officers. So it was different. You know.
And you ended up retiring as a lieutenant colonel.
I did.
Where'd you get promoted to lieutenant colonel at? Just huge. That's a huge promotion.
I got promoted at after I finished basic training and went to acquisition. I was then stationed at Fort McPherson, Georgia.
Oh yeah.
Yes, and then it's funny because
is McPherson even there anymore?
No. You know what's there?
No.
Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry bought Fort McPherson.
What?
I shit you not. Yeah. Because this was also during the time of the BRAC. Base realignment.
Okay, sure, yeah.
Fort McPherson was on the base list, BRAC list. So that was closing down. I was there around 2003, I think is when, maybe a little bit later.
Yeah.
Maybe it's probably a little bit later. I got promoted because I had, 2003, I bought a house and, I was stationed in Fort Gordon, Georgia.
Okay.
Before Fort McPherson. So I was stationed at Fort Gordon, Georgia, as an MI guy working at the battle lab. Then I went acquisition, stationed at Fort McPherson. I bought a house because I didn't think I was going to get promoted to lieutenant colonel. And then I got promoted to lieutenant colonel, and I went from Fort McPherson to Aberdeen Proving Ground.
Did you get promoted on time for your year group?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, I got promoted.
You downplayed us, but I'm smart enough to realize, hey, you must have been pretty okay.
I was pretty good. I was, you know what? I was the shit. My bad. I don't know why I didn't say that the first time. I was pretty good strictly because I thrived on it. I fed on it because here's why. Number one, and this is just Rob Smith, I didn't see too many black leaders.
Oh, okay.
That's something that was important to me because I'm an inner city kid, and I wanted Private Joe Snuffy, who happened to come out of Alabama or whatever, or wherever. I wanted him or her to be able to look at me and go, if he can do it, I can do it. And that was the reason why when I went acquisition and I was doing well, but what I've noticed is just me. As I got into the major and the senior, lieutenant colonel, it was harder to find mentorship.
Absolutely.
It really was. And so...
Because you got a whole bunch of 05s vying for a couple 06s.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so
now you're competition.
Although I was doing pretty well...
Did you go to War College?
No, I was going to be selected.
Is War College after 06?
No, that's before.
Or is it a precursor?
It's a precursor.
Okay.
And the challenge that I had was being in acquisition. We'll just use Arlington Hall Station as a bad example. I started to get away from the flagpole. And if you're not near the flagpole, they could give two shits about you.
Yeah.
And again, I just didn't have any mentorship. Like, hey, Rob, take this class, do this, go to this. I didn't have anything.
It's the nature of that branch, too.
Yeah. That's it.
Is that what led to your retirement?
Yes. I even volunteered and went to Afghanistan just so that I can be seen.
Is that an ILO?
No, I just went to Afghanistan so that I can be more on my boss's radar.
Yeah.
And then that...
You went as an acquisitions guy?
I did. I worked in PEO, IEWNS, intelligence, electronics, warfare, and sensors.
Okay.
So all of those sensors that we had on the battlefield, my organization was part of that. So the flares and the balloons and all those things, I was part of that organization. And I volunteered so that I can get some quote unquote FaceTime from a distance. But I think it was a little too late. You know, and so after a while, when I realized, you know what, it's probably better that I just...
What year did you go over there then?
I went over there a year before I retired.
Holy shit. Yeah. Like 2016?
2016, yeah.
Wow.
16. And then over there, I was like, you know what, I'm going to just retire.
How long did you stay? 4 or 5 months? Or
where, in Afghanistan?
Yeah.
A year.
Oh, you did a year?
See, here's how it worked. I was like, hey, sir, sure, I'll volunteer. Yeah, we need someone for about a month and a half.
Because some of them were short.
Like, sir, sign me up.
Yeah.
So I told my landlord in California, where everything is expensive as hell, I'm only going there for 30, 45 days. I'm not going to get rid of my apartment. I'll continue to pay rent. And I was like, then I said this, but since I'm going to serve my country, do I have to pay rent? She's like, yeah. So anyway, so while I was over there for the 45 days, it increased to 3 months. And then it increased to 6 months. And then it increased for a year. And I'm still paying rent, and there's nobody in my apartment.
Oh, you gotta be livid.
Yeah, and then I was. And then while I was over there, she raised the damn rent on me. I was like,
oh, my God.
So again, it was a learning lesson.
Yeah.
I did enjoy it because what I did was I helped bring in a lot of equipment for our soldiers while we were over there.
Did you get back in touch with, like, real Army and
I did.
Some of that
I did. And
so.
that was the fun part, is because they saw me as, oh, shit, how come Colonel Smith? Meaning I was with troops everywhere. Right.
You weren't playing spades with them, but at least you were out there.
No, I did. When you go to the rec center,
they do that. Colonel, you don't play spades, do you?
Oh yeah. When you go to the rec center, I was playing dominoes and whatnot. So
you were playing bid whiz, were you?
I don't know how to play that.
I don't either. I never learned how to. But everybody always said, "Oh, you should learn this." It's so much
everyone
fun.
says, yeah.
I was like, I don't know how to do it.
But no, it was I think, in essence, my entire life in the military, from beginning to end, was something that I gravitated towards strictly because I just enjoyed leadership.
Yeah.
And I think that pushed that same type of things that I did in the military to my current job, where I like to treat people as people.
Absolutely.
And I like to communicate with folks, and I don't want folks to ever be scared to come up to me to tell me something like a bad news or whatever the case is, because again, I was the exact same way in the military. So
where'd you go in Afghanistan?
I was at Kabul.
Yeah.
And we just went all over the place. Yeah, a couple of times. I would go to different sites to make sure they
went out to the FOBs or anything like that?
I did. Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I went out to the FOBs. Yeah. I had my little M4, and I'm like, Sergeant, you're going to protect me, right? Yes, sir, I got you. So, I'm good, man. So, yeah, I had a good time over there, and I really, really enjoyed it.
What's your, looking back, what do you think your proudest moment was?
I think my proudest moment was when I was in Korea. No, I'm just kidding. And I think my proudest moment was, one, not quitting in basic training.
Somebody else came back and said the same thing.
Yeah, because
it's a big thing because you don't know if you're going to make it.
I had guys and a guy like a Thurman, one of the guys named Thurman, a couple other folks. They would try to injure themselves to get out of basic training.
Oh, yeah.
And I think just understanding that, hey, Rob, this is only going to go for 8 weeks.
Yeah.
The discipline and the hollering, but that helped me grow. So I think that was my proudest moment. Although I can say becoming an officer and being a battalion commander and doing all these other things.
Oh, not to minimize those times.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think just being able to be there to propel me towards leadership.
Especially as young as you were.
Right.
Never being in that environment.
Exactly.
And to push through.
And to
stand up there and go.
Yeah. And that's my proudest moment. And then, like, being a basic training company commander and actually having a kid probably a couple of years ago, like, sir,
of course, that's all.
Were you? And I was like, yeah. So
that's great.
Yeah, but other than that, I would do it again.
What was the worst ass chewing you ever took?
The worst ass chewing I took was when
set it all up. What did you do?
So
not stealing cable.
Nope. Basic training company commander.
Yeah.
What we had to do was there was 5 companies, and every day there was a different venue that your soldiers or your troops had to go through. So this particular day, my soldiers, my privates or whatever, they were doing the lanes for the grenade.
Oh, okay.
Right? So my battalion commander, Alan C. Cate, what he would do is he would go from place to place to all his companies and just check on training.
Yeah.
So he came,
line,
right.
Yeah.
So he came to my training, and it's throwing a fucking grenade. So there isn't much you can do. So I had, I don't know, a company there, and I had some guys throwing it and some guys reading a book. So Colonel Cate comes to me and in front of my soldiers, and he's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "Hey, sir, they're just throwing grenades," and it's like, "And what else?" Like, nothing.
Wait, what rank were you at this time?
I was a captain.
Okay.
And I was like, "Sir, there's really not much." And I was like, "Why I said that?" And so he chewed my ass so bad.
Really?
That, yeah, and he did in front of the soldiers. I'm like, "Sir, are you going to kind of move me?" And he just kept chewing my ass.
Did he lock you up?
Yeah, he did.
Oh.
He was like, "You are just inept." And now, here's the difference. I'm 6'3", 6'4".
Yeah.
He's 5'2".
Okay.
All right, so there's one period, and he was lieutenant colonel. And so he's chewing my ass. I'm like, fuck. And so over the horizon, I see the chaplain, lieutenant, real cool cat, walking towards us.
Yeah.
Just because he likes to just see what's going on. He's walking towards us, and he gets, I don't know, 75 meters or whatever. He sees me getting chewed out by Colonel Alan C. Cate. He turns around.
Oh, he did?
He turns around. And I was like,
no God for you today.
He turns around. So that was my worst ass chewing. And again, I've been chewed. And the only reason I say it was the worst is because he didn't respect me enough as a leader to pull me to the side. And then I've gotten chewed from screwing up tank table 12.
Sure.
And things like that.
But you got that and you learned from it.
I did learn from it. And
this one just made your fist curl.
And I never did it to any other soldier or anything like that. Unless I had to for safety.
Yeah.
But
But this was just your white knuckling.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Right? And then to make matters worse, when the chaplain's like, "You know what? I think I'm going to go over here and talk to Jesus or somebody else." Didn't even come out here to like, "Sir, you okay, Rob? You need a hug?"
No.
Just turn around. So I was like, all right. So yeah, but again, I wouldn't trade it for the world, man. I learned so much. I really would.
Lieutenant Colonel Rob Smith, it's been a privilege talking to you and getting your story.
I enjoy it.
God, that was awesome.
Oh yeah, and yeah, it's fun.
On behalf of Lieutenant Colonel Smith, I'd like to thank you for listening today. I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you did, please leave a like and a comment and share the podcast with someone else. And as always, make sure to download the next episode for more service origin stories. So until next time, on your feet, fall out!